So, I recently had something happen to my family I still can't believe. Three men in black uniforms tried to evict us from a house we own. Apparently, we violated something called a community occupancy threshold. Turns out, the only thing that should have been evicted was them. Because my wife is a Navy commander. Let me start from the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. They didn't knock. They didn't need to. Three men walked up my porch like they already owned it. Navy blue uniforms, no logos, no names, just blank badges, military boots, and clipboards held like battering rams. The one in front tapped the screen door once with his pen and said, "Are you the property owner of this parcel?" I blinked. "Sorry, do you mean my house?" He didn't answer. He just adjusted his sunglasses and waited like I'd failed a test. The second man pulled a sheet from his clipboard. "You've been flagged for compliance review under Section 7B of the Neighborhood Security Act." "Neighborhood what now?" He kept reading. "Unauthorized fencing, non-standard yard fixtures, unapproved exterior storage, obstruction of easement, 30 days to correct or vacate." I stared at them. "We don't even have an HOA." "Not relevant," the third one said. His voice was low, firm. "Meadowlark Preservation and Zoning Authority covers this block now." "Never heard of it," I said. My voice cracked a little. "You will," the front one replied. That's when I knew something was off. Not weird off, wrong. I told them they had the wrong house, that we just moved in 2 weeks ago, that my wife was out running errands and would be back any minute. That last part was a lie. She was home, upstairs, watching through the second-floor window. They didn't know that. The second man stepped forward. "We're authorized to mark the property today. You'll receive a compliance warning in the mail." I felt my pulse spike. You can't just show up and start listing violations. Where's your paperwork? The third guy lifted a laminated card with a seal I didn't recognize and said, "Consider this formal notice." That was when Lily stepped outside. She was wearing jeans, boots, and an old hoodie with her last Navy Squadron's logo half faded on the sleeve. Her voice was soft, but heavy. "That's not a real agency." All three men froze. The one with the clipboard recovered first. "Ma'am, this is a lawful assessment." "No," she said, stepping off the porch. "It's a bluff. You're trespassing." "You need to calm down," the tall one said, shifting his stance. Lily's voice didn't rise. "You need to leave." The three of them looked at each other. Then slowly they backed off the steps. "We'll be back with enforcement," one muttered. Lily didn't answer. She just watched until they slid back into their black SUV, no plates, no markings, and drove away. I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for 10 minutes. "Who were they?" I asked. "Scare tactic," Lily said, brushing dirt off her sleeve. "Saw stuff like that overseas. They push until someone flinches." "They knew your name," I said. "They knew my name." "They're testing the perimeter," she replied. "Figuratively, maybe literally." I stared at her. "That's not a normal sentence, Lily." "No," she said. "It's not a normal neighborhood." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing the moment over. His voice, her stance, my frozen feet. We had alarms, cameras, a locked gate, but it didn't feel like enough. At 3:12 a.m., I sat up and checked the windows. Porch light still on, street empty. At 3:17, I saw it. A white flag, the size of a pencil, planted in our front lawn. It hadn't been there before. I stepped outside. The air was cold. The flag had numbers printed in faded ink. Zone 48, subject to removal. I yanked it out and walked back inside, heart pounding. Lily was already waiting in the kitchen, mug in hand. "I didn't hear you get up," I said. "I never went to sleep," she replied. The next morning, someone had gone through our mailbox. The flap was hanging open, the junk mail scattered across the walk. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. The cameras, offline for routine HOA maintenance, according to a note taped to the side of the box. We didn't have an HOA. That's when the pattern started. One neighbor stopped making eye contact. Another removed our family from the block party email thread. A third offered to buy our house for a fair cash price, no questions asked. The lawn service we never ordered came back. They trimmed 2 inches off the edge and left a bill for $75. "I don't like this," I said. "This is like, I don't know, organized harassment." Lily said nothing. She just opened her laptop and began typing like she was writing a report, the same kind she used to file before a mission. That night, I checked the back gate. Locked twice. And I still didn't feel safe, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure what these people really wanted. Property, power, or just proof that we'd leave if pushed hard enough. But I knew one thing. They thought I was the soft target. They thought my wife was gone. They thought this house was undefended. They thought wrong. The letter came without an envelope, just folded and slid under our front door like a threat that didn't need hiding. The paper was thick, watermarked, and smelled faintly like toner and chlorine. Urgent compliance notice sat across the top in a typeface that felt like it had teeth. I stood there, staring at it from the kitchen, like it might detonate if I touched it. Lily didn't blink when she saw it. Tactical escalation, she said softly. Testing procedural depth. I picked it up. 8 violations, all typed in legalese, but not a word made actual sense. Improper porch configuration. Unauthorized solar lighting. Non-standard mailbox curve. It read less like a notice and more like a creative writing assignment for control freaks. And at the bottom, in bold, penalty. $1,122. Due in full within 14 calendar days. Failure to comply may result in legal review or enforcement action. I laughed, a little too loudly. This has to be a joke. Lily didn't laugh. It's not. I made phone calls, city zoning, county clerks, even someone in municipal records I had to bribe with coffee and flattery. All of them gave me the same answer in different words. It's private jurisdiction, sir, out of our hands. One clerk actually whispered, "They're slippery. Don't fight them on paper. They'll win." That's when I started to spiral, because I wasn't just scared, I was embarrassed. I'd always been the one who handled the research, the logistics, the facts, and now I couldn't even get someone to explain if my porch was legal. Meanwhile, Lily started mapping. Literally, she pulled out satellite maps, overlaid elevation diagrams, checked county parcel codes, marked traffic patterns. I said, "This is insane. You're building a case file." She said, "No, I'm building a strike profile." I didn't know what that meant, but it scared me more than the letter did. Then came Karen. She showed up holding a lasagna and wearing a smile like it was military issued. "Hi there," she said. "I heard you got our little note." Lily stood beside me, arms crossed. Karen leaned in, just enough to be in our space, and said, "It's nothing personal. We just have very precise expectations here." Lily said nothing. Karen didn't blink. "Hope you like zucchini." I took the lasagna and stared at it like it was ticking. We didn't eat it. We didn't touch it. Lily placed it in a sealed trash bag and put it in the freezer like it was a biohazard. Later that day, the sprinklers stopped working. Wires had been clipped, clean cuts. Like someone opened the control box, did it calmly, and walked away. The cameras went offline. Routine HOA maintenance, read the notification. A full system reboot, no warning. The mail was messed with. The bins moved. But the scariest thing wasn't what happened. It was how nobody seemed to notice. Or care. The neighbor across the street, who used to wave every morning, now turned their back. Another offered us unsolicited moving company referrals. Someone pulled our son from the block party email list. Quietly, like we were ghosts. I tried to laugh it off, but at 2 a.m., I found myself whispering to no one. What if we were already evicted and nobody told us yet? I felt irrelevant, worse, replaceable, like the house was waiting for us to give up so it could host someone else. I started waking up before the alarms, checking windows, watching the street, wondering how many joggers passed our house just to glance in. And then, the garage opened, middle of the day. No one near the opener. I heard the rattle, walked outside, and saw the door halfway up. Inside, a man I didn't recognize, standing by the water heater, holding a clipboard. "Whoa! What are you doing?" I shouted. He turned casually. Routine inspection, safety check. "Of what? This isn't your property?" He smiled. "Just making sure your systems are up to code. You'll get the report next week." Lily came out behind me. He stopped smiling. "Name," she said. "Don't have to give it," he replied. "It's all authorized under Section 5E. "There is no Section 5E, she replied. "Leave now." He did. slowly, like someone who thought about saying more, but saw something in her eyes that made him change his mind. That night, I sat on the porch alone, and for the first time, I understood something I hadn't before. They weren't trying to take the house. They were trying to rewrite the story of who owned it. The next morning, we got a letter in the mail, certified, stamped, and perfectly legal looking. Notice of non-resident occupancy review. It claimed we no longer lived at our own address. The man was already halfway into our backyard before I saw him. Khaki pants, black boots, a belt full of gear that didn't belong on a landscaper. He wasn't looking at the grass, he was mapping it. By the time I yanked open the sliding door and shouted, "Hey!" he'd already circled the garden shed, made a note on his clipboard, and snapped 2 pictures of our sprinkler valve. I said, "What are you doing?" He turned slowly, like a cop at a traffic stop. Enforcement sweep, Section 5, C. "We don't have an HOA." He smiled. "Doesn't mean you're not under review." I took 2 steps into the yard before Lily appeared beside me like a shadow. Her voice didn't rise. It just sliced. "You're trespassing." "Ma'am," he replied, "you're in non-compliance with civic restoration zoning protocols." "That's not a real thing," she said. "Leave." His fingers twitched near his walkie, but Lily had already stepped forward, hands loose, stance squared, nothing casual about her presence. He left. He didn't run, but he left. I stood there, heart pounding in my ears, and realized I had clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Back inside, I slammed the sliding door harder than I meant to. Lily said nothing, just returned to the kitchen, reopened her laptop, and started typing. "What even is this?" I asked, pacing. "Are they contractors? Mercenaries? HOA cosplay commandos?" "Enforcers," she replied. "Private security. They're testing how far they can move without resistance." I ran a hand through my hair. "You say that like it's normal." "It is," she said, not looking up. "Just not here." I wanted to scream. Instead, I walked into the garage and slammed my fist into the wall. The drywall cracked. My hand didn't. When I came back inside, Lily was still at her laptop, scrolling through what looked like parcel records and chain of ownership reports. "I get that you're used to this," I said, "but this isn't a base. This is our home." Lily paused, closed her laptop slowly. "You think I don't know that?" I took a breath, regretted the tone. "I just mean, I don't know how to fight this. I write things, I research, I ask questions. But none of that works here. None of it matters." She looked at me for a long moment, then quietly said, "You don't have to be the weapon, Tom. That's what I'm here for." I didn't know what to say to that. So I called Dan. Dan, our neighborhood cryptid enthusiast, conspiracy theorist, and amateur drone pilot. He answered the phone and said, "I've been waiting." "I need eyes," I told him. "Already airborne," he replied. 10 minutes later, Dan was camped on our roof with a thermos and a monitor rigged to something that buzzed like a lawnmower full of bees. He narrated like a weatherman. "Movement at quadrant 4, potential badge flash. Repeat, clipboard in hand. We've got a sweeper." I didn't know what half of it meant, but somehow I believed him. Then he paused. "Whoa, someone just scanned your garage with a LiDAR app." I blinked. "LiDAR?" "3D surface mapping," he said. "They're building a profile. That's tactical." That night, I barely ate. Lily made dinner. We sat in silence. Our son was at a friend's house, thankfully. When I got up to clear the dishes, I looked out the window and froze. One of them was back, not in the yard, on the sidewalk, staring at the house like it owed him something. He didn't move, didn't blink. Just stood there, a silhouette against the porch light. Lily stood behind me. "Don't," she said. "I'm just going to ask what he wants." "Don't," she said again, sharper this time. "They're looking for an emotional response. That's how they mark who breaks first." I turned. "Then what? We let them harass us until they're bored?" "No," she said, walking past me. She went to the hall closet, pulled down a black case I hadn't seen since we moved in, and placed it on the table. Inside, a tablet, a black binder, 2 burner phones, and a set of laminated credentials with a government seal I didn't recognize. "What is this?" I asked, my voice quieter than I expected. "Tools," she said. "Authorization templates, contingency contacts, threat assessments." I looked at her like she was someone I didn't know. How long have you had this? Since Bahrain, she said. I nodded slowly. And what does this mean? It means, she said, picking up the burner phone, I'm done waiting for them to escalate. It's our turn. I watched her, stunned, not scared, just aware, like seeing lightning inside your own house. She turned to me, all calm, all precision. If they want to treat this like a battlefield, we'll show them what that really looks like. I didn't ask what came next, because for the first time, I wasn't worried about what they would do. I was worried about what she was about to. The next time they came to our door, Lily didn't answer it. She opened it with a folder in her hand and a sentence that made one of the men physically step backward. The sparks hit my hand before I heard the pop. I was in the garage, trying to reset the breaker for the third time, when the panel snapped loud enough to ring in my ears. The flashlight dropped. I stumbled backward, hit the wall, and landed hard enough to knock the wind out of me. The lights were already off. The silence was already thick. But that spark? That was intentional. I knew it in my bones. Back inside, the house was cold. Not freezing, just cold enough to feel staged. Lily had lit candles, not because we needed them, but because she wanted to see. She was sitting at the table. No panic. Just quiet, focused fury. They've hijacked the box, she said. Power's being rerouted at the substation level. I leaned on the wall. That's illegal, right? She looked at me, and I hated how calm she was. They don't care about legal, they care about control. The air felt heavy, like it carried weight, like the house wasn't empty, just observing. Then the phone buzzed. A text. No number, no name. Final compliance interview, 5 p.m., attendance mandatory. Interview, I said. Lily didn't answer. She was already opening the blackout case. Inside, the binder, the secure phone, the maps. She tapped something. A green light blinked once. I stared. Why aren't we freaking out? She looked up. You are. And she wasn't wrong, because in that moment, standing in the half-lit kitchen of a house that felt like a staged crime scene, I realized I was losing it. I can't do this, I said. Lily blinked. I'm not you. I'm not built for this. I write articles. I Google things. You're trained to stay calm while being shot at. And I'm out here trying to remember my Gmail password with a guy in a tactical vest measuring my lawn. She said nothing. I didn't stop. You didn't even tell me what was in the case. You didn't ask. You just assumed I'd fall in line while you turned our house into a forward operations base. Her expression didn't change, but she stood up slowly. I'm not asking you to be me, she said. I'm asking you to stay standing. That shut me up. I sat down. My heart was pounding like I just sprinted. But she just returned to the case, pulled out a USB, plugged it into the backup laptop. Satellite feed rerouted, she murmured. They're using relay drones to jam neighborhood-wide uplink. I'm ghosting it. You're ghosting it, I repeated. The oven beeped. It shouldn't have. We both looked at it. Lily stood, walked over, and opened the door. Empty, but hot. They're playing with surge control, she said. Testing fine-tuned access? My mouth was dry. How long do we wait? Until they send someone. At 4:59, the doorbell rang. 3 men outside, dark suits, tablets, 1 envelope, same as before. Lily didn't let them knock twice. She opened the door like she'd been expecting a delivery. No name badges? She asked. Not required, the lead one replied. His voice was trained, measured. We're here to review next steps. Lily tilted her head. Why not just admit it? The man didn't blink. Admit what? You're not here to talk, she said. You're here to catalog fear, see if we've broken yet. We're here to offer resolution. No, she said. You're here because you haven't been stopped yet. One of the other men shifted. His fingers moved toward his belt. Not a weapon, a microphone. Lily's eyes caught it before I did. You can record this, she said. I'm not the one who'll need to deny it later. They handed her the envelope. She didn't open it. Why not take a look? The lead man asked. Because I already know what it says. And what's that? That this house is no longer ours, she replied. That your zoning board has reassigned ownership, pending our voluntary departure. He smiled. That's not the language. No, she said. It's just the meaning. A drone buzzed faintly overhead. I looked up. The third man glanced toward it, then away. "You're being watched," I said. The lead guy chuckled. "You think that intimidates us?" "No," Lily said. "I think it documents you." There was a long pause, then the man leaned in slightly. "If you escalate—" She cut him off. "I don't escalate. I neutralize." That was when I saw it, the second man. He flinched, just slightly, but he flinched. Lily turned her body, letting the porch light frame her silhouette, and said, "Leave before I stop pretending this is civil." They left. No words, no rebuttal. They walked off like soldiers who'd realized they picked the wrong bunker. Inside the envelope was a printed copy of our deed, edited, redacted, entire sections missing, and a QR code. Lily scanned it. It pulled up a login portal. Meadowlark Occupancy Transition Initiative. No access, clearance required. That night, the lights came back on. But the house didn't feel brighter. It felt infiltrated. Every window, every outlet, every camera that flickered twice instead of once. I didn't sleep, not because I was scared anymore, because I was angry, because I knew this wasn't about law, it was about permission, and we were done asking. At 3:02 a.m., the cameras glitched, just once. When they came back on, the back door was ajar. Inside the crack, a business card. Blank, except for a phone number. Lily picked it up and whispered, "They've made contact." She didn't say a word that night. Not when the cameras blinked, not when the back door creaked open and clicked shut again. Not when I sat in the living room holding a crowbar like I'd ever swung it at anything other than a drywall anchor. Lily just stared at the kitchen table. The candle between us flickered like it was trying not to draw attention. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't moved. She hadn't said my name in hours. And then, out of nowhere, quiet as a memory she didn't want, she spoke. "Do you want to know when I stopped asking for help?" I turned toward her, surprised by the sound. Yeah. Always love a 4 a.m. existential pop quiz." No smile, just a pause. "Kandahar, winter of 2009. She said it like it was still printed on her deployment manifest. Fob 7 wasn't a frontline base. It was where the signals ran cold. Communications tower, listening gear, 7 generators, and 1 reinforced room with no windows and too many screens. She was on day 19 of a 30-day comms rotation. No field duty, no combat. Just signals, pulses, frequencies, timestamps. Then a recon unit stopped reporting. Standard 3-man team, 1 civilian translator. No immediate red flags. Except Lily noticed something. Transmissions were bouncing wrong, she said. Off time, off angle. It wasn't terrain, it was human. She pulled the data, flagged the packet delays, built a case, walked it up the chain. "You know what they told me?" she said. I nodded, not answering. "We don't deploy based on feelings, Lieutenant." She didn't have a rank high enough to override protocol, so she waited. 6 hours. 6 hours of a blank screen, no updates, no rescue, no decision. Then the call came in. Survivor found. 1, translator, Afghan-born, Reza. 2 fingers gone, Lily whispered. Collapsed lung, still bleeding when they got him out. She saw him once, 2 days later. They brought him to her because she'd made the report. She said he could barely speak, but when he did, he asked her one thing. "Didn't you hear us?" That line broke her, because she had. But the system decided not to believe her. Back in the kitchen, Lily still hadn't touched her tea. The candlelight carved shadows into her cheekbones. She wasn't just remembering, she was reliving. "You think that was the moment?" I asked. "The reason you stopped asking?" "No," she said. "That was the moment I realized I'd never ask again." I sat there, stunned. "That's why you're like this?" "Like what?" "Prepared, cold, ready for every worst-case scenario before I even realize there's a bad one." She didn't react. So I tried humor. It's what I do when I don't know what else to do. "You know," I said, "I once left a waffle iron plugged in during a house showing. That's the closest I've ever come to a tactical failure." She raised one eyebrow. "Were lives lost?" "Just my dignity." A flicker of a smile, gone as fast as it came. Then she opened the drawer, the one I always thought just held batteries and birthday candles. But inside was a flash drive, not marked by brand or logo, just wrapped in a label that said, Cloud Cache, Dubai, Do Not Wipe, and beneath it, a second drive, no label. Just a strip of blue painter's tape with one word scrawled on it, backup. She held it like it weighed more than it should. I didn't keep this because I thought they'd come for me, she said. I kept it in case they ever showed up somewhere I cared about. That hit me hard, because that meant this wasn't just strategy. This wasn't muscle memory. This was love. Weaponized. She plugged the drive into the laptop. The screen flared once. A code prompt appeared. She typed fast. Numbers, glyphs, a symbol I'd never seen. Then the screen turned black, then green. Then a list of names, hundreds, scrolling, classified clearance tags, project codes, private infrastructure contracts, and in the middle of it, Meadowlark Z58 Delta. That's our neighborhood, I said, staring. They gave it a project code. She scrolled again. Clicked. A personnel list appeared. Contractors, liaisons, surveillance, logistics, all flagged green, except one. Whittaker, Karen. Status, unconfirmed, active. I pointed. Her last name is Whittaker? She changed it, Lily said. That's her married alias. I've seen her under 3 other identities. I just sat back in my chair. You're telling me the head of our HOA is a ghost contractor with multiple aliases and a clearance higher than your old CO's? Lily didn't answer. Instead, she double-clicked the name. A new file loaded. It was an email, 1 line, no sender. If she ever reactivates, shut down the Glen. That's when I realized something that twisted my stomach. Wait, you think they're here because of you? Lily stared at the screen. No, she said. They're here because I never was supposed to leave. Inside that email was a second attachment. 1 word, failsafe. Lily clicked it, then froze. Because what she saw wasn't a name, it was a photo. Of our house, dated 7 months before we ever moved in. The house had never been this quiet, and not the peaceful kind of quiet, the missing sound kind, like the walls were holding their breath. I heard it first, the click of the gate latch outside. Not loud, not rushed, just casual, like the kind of person who opens things that are supposed to be locked. I checked the feed, black screen, static, rebooting. Then came the motion alert, front yard, garage, hallway. No, it couldn't be. I stepped into the hall, heart hammering, just as Lily appeared. She was barefoot, holding a tablet she hadn't touched in months. They're here, she said. How many? 4, possibly 5. One's already on the roof. I froze. The roof? She looked at me. They want to come in clean. No broken glass, no alarms. Just vanish us without sound. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 soft knocks at the back door. I jumped. Lily didn't flinch. She turned off the hallway light. We have 60 seconds. To do what? To vanish. She opened the hall closet. Not for coats, for gear, signal disruptors, burner phones, a bag with cash, not digital, old bills. You packed a go bag? I asked, stunned. I packed 4. Of course she did. I reached for my phone. No bars, no Wi-Fi. The carrier icon just said no network, like it had been canceled by the Department of Forgetting. Where's our son? I asked, suddenly panicked. Safe, she said. He's not coming home tonight. How do you... I arranged it, she cut in, 3 days ago. Another knock, softer this time, like a whisper through wood. Then a voice, Commander Tran, time to come home. My skin went cold. I turned. They know your name? She opened a drawer and pulled out a flash drive. No, she said. They know one of them. We moved upstairs. Every step felt like thunder. I pulled the blinds, grabbed the crowbar I kept as a dumb joke, and then realized I might need it. That's when we heard it. Door unlocking, no beep, no chime. Just a mechanical twist, like they'd cloned the key. I grabbed Lily's hand. Whatever happens, I whispered, don't go alone. She didn't answer. She was already gone. I watched from the attic vent as she walked into the moonlight, barefoot, unarmed, calm like a surgeon walking into triage. There were 4 of them, black jackets, flat expressions, earpieces that no longer worked. They'd shut down the comms, but Lily had already disabled theirs. One stepped forward. You need to come with us. She tilted her head. Who issued the summons? Whisper Op Charlie, secondary clearance, post Dubai. Wrong code, she replied. He blinked, then said, This isn't optional. I know, Lily said. That's why I'm not declining. She moved toward them, arms at her sides. Chin up. No resistance. They thought they'd won. Until she reached her hand into her jacket, dropped something small to the dirt, and said one word. Oops. Flash. A hiss of static tore through the air, like someone ripping the signal from the atmosphere. Their radios died, their tablets fried in their hands. The man closest to her stepped forward, angry now. He reached, and she moved, quick, precise. She sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, pinned him, dropped him with one knee and one twist. He hit the ground so hard I felt it in the walls. Another tried to circle her. She kicked his leg from under him, snatched his comm, crushed it under her heel. The third one hesitated. Bad choice. She walked into his space, stared up at him, and said, Tell Karen it failed again. He ran. I rushed downstairs, tripping over the rug, crowbar in hand. The driveway was empty. Lily stood in the middle of it, barefoot, bleeding slightly at the knuckle. I said, Holy moly. She said, That was just the opening act. Then she handed me a printed file, one of theirs, stolen mid-fight. Inside, blueprints, not of our house, of the development. Each house had a code. Each family had a file. Ours, primary, asset recovery, and beneath it, one more photo. Grainy, cropped. Lily standing in front of our house. Only dated 2 years before we moved in. She'd never seen that photo before, but there she was. Same stance, same scar, same uniform. So I asked the only question I could. Lily, were you ever supposed to leave Dubai? She didn't look at me when she answered. She just whispered, I don't think I ever did. The house was too quiet again. Not danger quiet. This time it was grief. The kind that doesn't cry, just sits in a room, staring at things too long. Lily hadn't said a word since she saw the photo. Her, standing in front of our house, dated 2 years before we moved in. Same stance, same jacket, same eyes, but vacant. Like she was there physically, but not all the way inside herself. She held that photo like it might start talking, like maybe, if she stared hard enough, the answers would blink back. Then she whispered something I barely heard. I used to dream about this place. I sat up straighter. The house? She nodded. The lights, the porch, the hallway shadows. Always the same smell in the air. I didn't know it was real until we moved in. I thought my brain was playing tricks. She stood, crossed to the kitchen, and poured herself coffee she didn't drink. I had those dreams for years, Tom, even before we met. I laughed nervously. Okay, so what? Premonitions? Your subconscious took Zillow a little too seriously? But she didn't smile. She slid the photo under a notebook and pulled out the flash drive marked backup, inserted it, typed something, then paused. I'm trying my name. She typed Lily. Access granted. My chest seized. The screen blinked once, then loaded a video feed, black and white, top-down angle, a white room, a table, restraints, not pulled tight, just enough to remind you they could be. Lily sat in the chair, not crying, not angry, just blank. A man in uniform leaned forward, not military, contractor. He spoke. You chose this neighborhood. You authorized the emotional tether. Once the overlay holds, you won't remember any of this. Then the screen glitched, froze on her face. Lily reached forward and shut the laptop. Her hands were shaking. I don't remember that, she said. Could it be a deep fake? I asked, desperate. No, she replied. That's the watch I lost in Bahrain. That's the jacket they burned. I stood up, started pacing. Okay, we need to step back. How did we meet? You tell me this time. She closed her eyes. We were introduced at a training seminar, San Diego. Someone made a joke about the broken air conditioning. That's not what I remember. She opened her eyes. Exactly. I stopped pacing. My mouth opened. Nothing came out. You think I was placed with you? No, she said. I think we were placed, together, designed. I dropped into a chair like my legs had just been unplugged. Lily, no, I remember everything. Your laugh, the hotel in Spain, the midnight nachos. They could have been implanted, she cut in, or overwritten. You're not a robot, I snapped. You're my wife. And that's what scares me, she said, quieter. What if I'm both? Later that night, a package arrived. No label, no delivery vehicle. Inside, a printed sheet. A single sentence. Unit instability confirmed. Environmental rollback scheduled. Report or be extracted. I asked what environmental rollback meant. She just said, they're going to erase the Glen. Not just us. Everyone. She pulled up a secure browser on the burner laptop. Typed a backdoor command. A map loaded. The entire neighborhood appeared. Not as homes, but as zones. With tags, surveillance intensity, behavioral volatility. Emotional anchor nodes. Tom Bartlett, secondary support. Lily Tran, primary origin loop. I was the prototype, she whispered. This isn't a place I fled to. It's a place I was meant to reset in. That's when the audio file autoplayed. No prompt, just a voice. Lily, you've been triggered again. The voice was soft, too familiar, but not hers. You asked us to build this. You needed it. You said if you ever remembered, we'd know what to do. It's okay. Just breathe. I whispered, Is that you? She shook her head slowly. No. Tom will try to intervene, the voice continued. He won't understand. That's okay too. I froze. You made this choice, and now it's time to come home. The voice cut off. I snapped. You tell me right now if this is real, I said, because I'm losing it. I don't care if this was a dream or a mission or a simulation. I just need to know. Did you choose me? She looked at me and said the one thing I couldn't handle. I don't know. We sat in silence for what felt like a year. She stared at her hands like they were evidence. I stared at her like I was waiting to wake up. Then she said, There's one more file. A photo of a blueprint, the house, with notations. Phase 3, testing, emotional anchor saturation, begins 2021. If loop breaks, eliminate support units. Do not allow subject to self-terminate or leave sector. Support units, I said, reading the words. That's me, she whispered. They were never afraid I'd remember. They were afraid I'd choose not to forget. The final file auto-launched. A location appeared. Coordinates in Utah. The word re-entry printed in bold. And beneath it, agent inbound, arrival, 0400 hours. She didn't move, just stared at the clock. Because the next knock on our door wouldn't be from an HOA. It would be from someone who built her. And they weren't coming to ask. The clock read 4:04 a.m. and the knock would come a minute later. Lily was already dressed. Boots, jacket, wristwatch she hadn't worn in years. The one from Bahrain. The one they'd told her was destroyed in a base fire. I asked her if she was ready. She didn't answer. Instead, she said something I didn't expect. If they take me, don't follow. I stood there, hands clenched, heart pounding like a siren in a locked vault. I won't let them, I said. She finally looked at me, software sad, but sure. You can't stop them, Tom. Then let me go with you. She shook her head. You weren't part of this, not at the start. That's what made you real. At 4:05, the power in the house shut off, silently, not even a click. Then the cameras, the backup system, the satellite phone, all dead. We stood in the hallway, no light, no escape, only each other, and the weight of everything we'd learned pressing down like a memory foam mattress soaked in gasoline. She whispered, If I walk out there and they take me, they'll start the loop again. Then don't go, I said. Then what? She replied. Wait until they tear down the Glen, until every person here becomes a node in their little experiment. You're not responsible for them. I built it, Tom. I designed it. I gave them the layout, the architecture, the psychological rhythm. This was my idea before I forgot it was. But you're not that person anymore, I said. You're here, with me. She nodded, and for the first time all week, she looked scared. I don't know who I am without the programming. Then let's find out. 4:06. The knock came, not a fist, a knuckle, deliberate, software, like someone knocking on their own front door. Lily turned toward it, I grabbed her hand, and for a moment, she squeezed back. The door opened by itself. No one stepped in, no one spoke, just a silhouette. One figure, a woman, dark blazer, clipboard. "Agent Tran," she said, "you are 2 years past retrieval. Deviation has exceeded threshold. Sector is being restructured. Please comply." Lily stepped forward. I stepped with her. The woman raised a hand. "Support units will be reassigned upon erasure. This will not hurt." Lily stopped, looked back at me, then turned to the agent and said, "I remember now." The agent didn't blink. "That is not your function." Lily smiled, not like before, not calm, not cold, defiant. "I know, that's why I'm staying." She didn't move, neither did the agent. A pause, a flicker of tension, and then the agent nodded. "Very well," she said, pulled out a pen, marked something on her clipboard, then walked away. Just like that. No force, no retrieval, no reset, just walked away. I stared at Lily like she was a statue that had refused to shatter. "You did it," I whispered. She turned to me, breath hitching for the first time. "Number, you kept me real." 3 days later, the Glen was quiet. The flags were gone. The fines disappeared. The MPZA website was wiped. The house deed reverted. Like it had all been a fever dream. But Lily didn't forget, because forgetting was never part of the deal again. She wasn't the prototype anymore. She was the survivor. And she stayed. Not because she had to, but because she finally chose to. And me? I stopped asking if she remembered everything. Because sometimes when we're out walking the neighborhood, she'll pause, tilt her head, and say, "This wasn't here before." And I'll ask, "The sidewalk?" And she'll say, "No, them." Then she'll keep walking, and I'll follow. Because I don't need to understand everything anymore. I just need to remember who chose to stay.